Welcome. This is the video about the first Ugly League Challenge Super Howard season evaluation. This will kind of talk about how your team is going to be evaluated this season. As we mentioned in the last video, kind of in the overview, there are 4 areas, and all 4 areas are weighted equally. So the most visible aspect of your evaluation is the robot game. It's the one everybody's going to see. It's very public, very visual, and it's the thing that a lot of kids, kind of hook into and get excited about before they see anything else. And so at a competition, you're guaranteed at least 3 rounds plus a practice round. Only the competition rounds, we call them your official rounds, they will count. The practice round doesn't count for a score. And at the end of all 3 rounds, your highest score is what matters. So we look for the team that has the highest score. So if there are 12 teams at the event, every team plays 3 rounds. We look at the highest score for each team, and then we rank the teams, 1 to 12. And the better you do there, the better your robot game score is. So we don't care so much about what your score is. We just care about how you do relative to the other teams at the event. So if you're at an event where the highest score is 100 points and you get 90 points, then you're probably going to do pretty well. But if you're in an event where the high score is 300 points and your score is 90 points, you're not going to do as well. And so it depends on who's at the event, how things are going that day. We look at ranking, not total score, when we evaluate the team kind of as a whole. But you care about your total points because that's kind of going to determine your rank. And so what you see here is the official score sheet. At the end of a match, a referee will go through this with one or both students or all 4 students at the table. Talk about that later. And go through, you scored this, you didn't score this, and talk about, why. And that's your student's chance to kind of say, hey, I think we might have scored this wrong. Can we take a look at this? This is only between the referees and the students. At the end of this, the student will sign off on it. And so they'll go through, did you get your equipment inspection? It'll go through all 15 of the missions and see, okay, what did you do on the missions? And then it'll check off your precision tokens and make sure you've returned everything. You might notice there's no points on this sheet. That's because the referee is not checking off points. It's checking off, did you do certain things? And then the scoring software takes in the referee's feedback and computes the score. That way that we're not having to worry about point totals at the table. We're just checking off, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? And then the scoring software from first handles that information. And so once you get through all the way down to return loose items, then the referee and the student will sign off on the sheet, and that's the end of it. We can't look at it again after that. That is the end of the scoring. There's also this piece on the score sheet that you might notice here at the bottom that is the gracious professionalism points. And we'll just scoot that off, move down a little bit. And the way this works is every match you're going to be evaluated for how the team is displaying gracious professionalism. When the team gets to the table, they are assumed to start at a 3. If the team displays great gracious professionalism and goes above and beyond, the referee has the discretion to bump them up to a 4. If the team displays poor gracious professionalism or poor core values, then the referee has the discretion to bump them down to a 3. From a 3 to a 2. So every match will start with a 3 and can be bumped up or down. Because this is actually part of judging and not your robot game, this does not affect the robot game score at all, but it will affect your judging scores. So because of the way we do judging, at least in my region in Alabama, this may be different for other regions if you're watching this in a different region, the referee and the student will sign off on the score sheet before the referee awards gracious professionalism points. That's because with the rest of our judging, you don't get to see your judging score until after the event. And because this is part of judging, we don't want you to see it before the event is over. But you will see this score. We're going to figure out a way to kind of get these scores to you, but you won't see them when you sign the form. So be ready for that. Again, that is only in the Alabama region. It may be true in other regions. It may not be true in other regions. It all depends on how your region is running things. That is something that has been left up to the regions. But all this talk about the robot game scores is only a 1/4 of your score. Remember, robot game is only 1/4 on that overview. Now, this gracious professionalism does get into the other 3 areas, which are going to be evaluated by the rubrics. And so when you go into your judging session, there will be three rubrics that get filled out. One is the core values rubric, where the judges will evaluate kind of how your team is displaying the core values, except for gracious professionalism. Gracious professionalism is going to be graded separately by the referees. And so this core values rubric plus the gracious professionalism points from the referees will determine your overall core values score. In addition, the judges are going to fill out the innovation project rubric. And so they're going to grade you on your innovation project specifically. Remember, we're talking about your research, your innovative solution, your sharing, and all of that is captured in these identify, design, create, iterate, communicate standards. And they're very clearly defined here. And these rubrics are available to you. Practice them with your team. It's a great way to get ready for the judging session. And then finally, we have the robot design rubric, which, like the innovation project rubric, has the identify, design, create, iterate, and communicate standards. But they are worded differently because these apply to how you went about your engineering process for your robot, while these talk about how did you go about your solution process for your innovation project. And so these are your three rubrics. And so the judges will fill these out. And then just like with the robot game scores, you get ranked 1 to 12 if there are 12 teams at the event. You also get ranked 1 to 12 in each of the three rubric areas. So if you come in and you have, the best day on the table and you do the best in all three judging sessions, you're going to be 1, 1, 1, and 1. So your total is 4, which is the lowest score you can have, which is best. It's kind of like golf, right? But again, we don't look at raw scores on these. We look at ranking. So if you get 3s on everything, which it's very, very hard to get a 4. If you're at an event and a lot of teams are getting 4s, it's a very difficult event. Most teams that have done everything that is expected of them will be 3s across the board, and then 4s are just for something that is kind of mind-blowing to the judges. So the rubrics get filled out separately from the robot game, obviously. The robot game uses the robot game score sheet and uses the robot game to fill that out. The judging sessions will fill out the rubrics based on this judging session flowchart. So in addition to your matches, in part of the day, you will have a judging session. And this judging session is a 30-minute session, and it's laid out pretty standardly here. You come in, and there will be a panel of judges. There'll be a team welcome, and as soon as you walk in the room, the judges are already kind of gauging your core values and how you're doing with that. So you'll do your welcome, and that's, they'll do a little chit-chat. They'll get to know you while you're getting set up, because the sessions, again, starts as soon as you walk in the room. That's your first 2 minutes. Then you'll have the Innovation Project live presentation. This is where you have prepared a 5-minute presentation all about your innovation project. And this is designed to convey the information the judges need to fill out that rubric. A good rule of thumb when studying the rubrics and practicing with the rubrics is the more the judges can fill out that rubric based on your 5-minute presentation, the easier the Q&A session, because you have 5 minutes to present and then 5 minutes Q&A just about the project. So the easier time you'll have with the question and answer. But the easier it is for the judges to fill out that rubric, the better your score is likely to be. Because if the judges are having to hunt for information and try to, guess, kind of read between the lines of what you're saying, it's going to be harder for them to rank you, to grade you as accurately as if you just say, hey, we did this, this, and this. And the judges can say, oh, well, that clearly checks off the accomplished box without having to ask you any questions. So again, you have 10 minutes total here, but you have 5 minutes for presentation, 5 minutes for Q&A. Then you roll into robot design, a 5-minute presentation. It's an explanation, less than a presentation, where you talk about your engineering process. And so again, just like with the innovation project, these 5 minutes are designed for the judges to be able to fill out that robot design rubric. And the more information and the more specific and the more exact you can be when going through your information compared to the rubric, the easier it'll be for the judges to fill it out, the easier it'll be for them to give you an accurate score. Again, if you make it harder for the judges to score you accurately, they're probably not going to be able to score you accurately. So anything you can do to make the judges' job easier is going to improve your score. And then you have your 5 minutes for Q&A, just like the project. So the middle 20 minutes here are 5-minute presentation, 5-minute Q&A, 5-minute explanation, 5-minute Q&A. Then you've got a 3-minute core values reflection. So just like with your team welcome, the judges are already trying to get a gauge for your core values. Your core values reflection will be, thinking about your season and what you've learned and how you've implemented the core values in your everyday life. And those kind of 5 minutes are combined what the judges will use to fill out your core values rubric. But that's only 25 minutes. The last 5 minutes are meant for feedback. So don't think you have to respond to this, because you don't. The judges are just going to say, is there anything you want specific feedback about? And the judges will give you feedback right then and there. Their goal is to, give you something that you did really well that they really liked, but they also want to give you something you can improve on. That's because in a tournament system, we will have our 2 levels of competition, at least in our region. Some regions have more, some regions have fewer, where you'll get your feedback and you may advance to the next level of competition. And you can use that feedback to improve what you've done. And so after that 30 minutes, you leave the room and the judges have some time to fill out the rubrics the rest of the way, write down any notes they might have. And then once they're done with that, they're going to move on to the next team. And those scores get entered and contribute to your rank in each area. So after your judging session, after all judging sessions are over, I should say, we will have a good idea of the robot design ranks, and we will have a good idea of the innovation project ranks. Once the matches are over, we will have the full picture for the core value ranks, because remember, the referees do grade your core values by your gracious professionalism, and so that factors into your judging. And we will know your robot game rank. Out of all of this, we will use the data, and the judges will deliberate to determine awards, advancement. The only things, though, that come out of this are, 1, you will get your rubrics back, so you'll know, kind of how you did. You will know the robot game ranking, so how all the robot scores rank out, but you will not know everybody's judging scores. That is not public information. And so all of this culminates at the end of the event with the award ceremony and the closing ceremony. And the big thing to remember is that all 4 of these areas, robot design, core values, innovation project, robot game, are weighted equally. No one part is more important than any other part. So if you focus on one area and let the other 3 slip, you're not going to do very well. If you focus on 3 areas and let 1 slip, you're going to do better, but you do run the risk of still slipping because we look at everything equally. So that's kind of our overview of the evaluation. Again, all the documents you've seen are publicly available, and there should be links in the description of this video once those links are available.